Welcome back to some new PettyRevenge stories, where people share small victories over those who wronged them. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now let's start with the first story. It's called Credibility Revenge. I work in R&D at my company. Normally I'm not too involved with deals, like those with suppliers and manufacturers. That is handled by a different department. But for a recent project, my team and I have been more involved in the finer details of a big manufacturing deal. As we were wrapping up the project, I found out that someone high up in the manufacturing department had been meeting with the other company without me and was planning to essentially take credit for all my team's work. While it's not a huge deal to me, it could impact bonuses for some of my employees. Today I talked with the COO, who assured me that they recognized my team did the work and deserved the credit, but that it would be simpler at this point to just let the other person handle the deal. I was okay with this, since we received the recognition, and it was one less thing on my plate with other projects to focus on. Then this person had the nerve to ask where he should take the clients for lunch. He didn't mention who exactly, but I knew they were coming to town, so it wasn't hard to put two and two together. So I suggested a new restaurant that recently opened and seemed like a nice spot after a long flight. The restaurant was Twin Peaks. If you are not familiar, it's a little like Hooters. After lunch, they came by the office, and I made sure to stop by and say hello. They were clearly not impressed, and their CTO even commented that he wished I was handling things, because he didn't quite appreciate the other person's style. It was obvious they felt uncomfortable with his choice of restaurant, and he didn't look too thrilled with me either. The next story is called Plunger Revenge. I used to be the day manager at a small gym. The job was fine, though the biggest drawback was how cost-conscious the owners were. One day, a customer clogged the only toilet in the gym, and that's when I found out we didn't have a plunger. So, in a bit of a panic, I jogged up the street to the dry cleaners and asked the very kind owner if I could borrow her plunger, letting her know that, yes, it was an unusual and slightly embarrassing request. With the toilet unclogged and the plunger returned, I called the owners before the end of my shift to explain what happened and told them we needed a plunger as soon as possible. They promised they'd buy one, but of course they didn't. I had to make that jog of shame to borrow the dry cleaner's plunger one more time. Unfortunately, I didn't have access to petty cash, and I didn't feel confident they'd reimburse me if I bought one on my own. The gym closed half days on Sundays, which is when the owners would come in to handle their business responsibilities. Well, one Sunday, one of the owners clogged the toilet, and this time it was pretty bad. But the dry cleaners are closed on Sundays. Later, they told me there was water everywhere, and that they had to spend the rest of that Sunday cleaning up. After that, they bought not just one, but two plungers. And not long after, I decided it was time to move on. The third story is called Favor Revenge. I'm a 29-year-old bartender, working at a small but very popular pub. I've been here for over 3 years, and I've worked my way up to the shifts I want, so I often work 5 to 6 days a week. Recently I worked 6 days straight, all closing shifts. It's a lot, because unless it's Friday or Saturday, I work alone and have to clean the entire place by myself, basically handling everything from bartending to serving and cleaning. After closing that final night of the week, I did the entire checklist as usual and left the place spotless, like I always do. The next day, around 1 PM, the opener sent out a message that read, "There was a full case of the Pinot upstairs, 1.5 bottles in the fridge. I have a bottle on ice for a couple that specifically came in for the Pinot. If we are super low on stock, have a quick look upstairs." Now, this employee only works one shift a week. She's had some challenges with her performance and seems to have it out for me. Stocking the wine is a day shift responsibility, so she could have checked and stocked the fridge herself when she arrived at 11:30 am. So now when I close and know she'll be opening, I put the chairs up, which isn't standard practice here. Putting the chairs up is a bit annoying to deal with the next day, but if she's going to criticize my closing routine, I'll make sure it's as thorough as possible. The next time we worked together, she acted as if I didn't even exist, like I wasn't there. I hadn't done anything to her, so that's what bothered me the most. Then she needed a shift covered that weekend, and I volunteered to cover it. I felt a bit of satisfaction knowing that, as much as she might want to dislike me, I was there to help her out anyway. The next story is called PettyRevenge. I've worked in software sales for most of my career. About 10 years ago, my company was hosting its annual user conference in Las Vegas. As a sales rep, I had a lot of flexibility with expenses as long as it involved clients. Dinners, drinks, tables at clubs, you name it. The only strict rule was that we couldn't spend company money at certain types of clubs. I'd been in the industry long enough to know the tricks some people would use to work around that rule. They'd sometimes talk to a manager at a club and have tips added to the bottle service bill. Personally, I never thought it was wise to get involved with that. I didn't think it reflected well, and it wasn't the kind of impression I wanted to give my clients. At the time, I was around 27 or 28, and there was an older guy on the team, Jim, who was the classic, old-school sales guy. Jim had a reputation for telling half-truths, overcharging, overselling, anything to get a sale. It often created extra work for the support teams, but he didn't seem to care, as long as he got his commission. In Vegas, Jim would go all out, entertaining clients and himself to the max. Sometimes he'd even go to dinner alone, but claim he was with a senior VP. He also used the loophole for certain clubs. Jim's wife was very traditional and didn't like these trips to Vegas at all. He would joke that he couldn't even bring his suitcase into the house. He had to leave it in the garage, so his wife could wash everything separately and sanitize the machine. On the last night of the conference, Jim arranged a shuttle from one of the major clubs to pick up a group. He had some extra seats and was trying to fill them to meet the minimum requirement for free entry. Jim saw me with a client and invited us to join. I politely declined, but he started teasing me, saying things like, "Oh, are you afraid of pretty ladies?" He even made a few comments about how I'd react, which I didn't appreciate, especially since he was saying this in front of my client. So I calmly replied, "I don't want to go because I don't think it's professional." After he left, I bought my client another round, and we shared a laugh about it. After that, I decided to walk along the strip and turn in early since I had an early flight. If you've been to Vegas, you know there are people on the sidewalk handing out cards with ads on them. They can't speak to you, but they slap the cards to get your attention. After a couple of drinks, I started picking up a few of these cards, just for fun. Fast forward to the next morning at the airport. Jim and I were both waiting for our flight. He'd stayed out until 3 or 4 am and was clearly feeling the effects. Meanwhile, I was fresh and enjoying watching him struggle. At one point, he went to the restroom and asked me to watch his bag. When he was out of sight, I slipped those cards into his bag. When he got home, his wife followed her usual routine with his suitcase. She was not thrilled with what she found. Divorce wasn't on the table, but they suddenly started going to church 3 times a week and had a weekly counseling session with their pastor. Jim was set to drop out of his weekly golf league. A few days later, Jim was telling us the story at work, clearly hoping for some sympathy. He swore he had no idea where those cards came from, though he admitted he couldn't remember much from that night. The last story is called PettyRevenge. Back when I was doing career work, the company I worked for had a contract to deliver suspension upgrade kits for 4 WDs. These weren't light packages, heavy leaf springs, dampers, the works. One day I had a delivery to a house with a steep driveway, and there was no way I could drive my truck up to it. so I'd have to unload everything by hand. First, I knocked on the door to make sure someone was home. I could hear someone inside, a woman laughing and chatting on the phone. Thinking this would be an easy delivery, I knocked a few more times, but got no response. The delivery docket had a phone number for the customer, so I gave it a call. Turns out it was the customer's mom at home, and apparently she was known for ignoring knocks. He apologized and asked me to leave it at the front door, so I unloaded the heavy leaf springs and carefully stacked them right up against the security door, making sure the only way to open it was to move the items from the front. Just as I started walking back down the driveway, the door opened, and she noticed what I'd done. She started yelling, but I didn't even look back, just gave a little wave and called out, "Have a great day." Surprisingly, I never got a complaint. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.